Welcome back to Make Machines. On today's episode, we're going to do something really different. After we finish building the roll cage and everything, I'm going to be doing a review on it, talking about it, things I liked about it, things I didn't like about it, in case for people who are interested in buying roll cages and installing one in their cars. I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of doing the roll cage, how I did it. So I'm going to talk about my experiences in putting it in, and then also going to have my brother talk about what he liked, what he didn't like, the welding, the material and stuff, everything that he'll mention. But first, we're going to talk about the directions in the product that I actually bought. So, I'll bring you over to my little makeshift table I got here. This is the installation guide that came with the roll cage. Of course, it's not actually that big. The one that actually came with my installation guide. The one that actually came is this little booklet here. But as you see, it's quite small and hard to read. So I printed it on out. Now, what I actually bought is the 4130 roll cage inch and 5/8 tube box. It was for a 64 to 69 Mustang or Cougar. It's the 10-point variant, so this one right here. So all the blue are optional. The rockers, the dash bar, the front strut bars, and then the window bar. Then the cleavages that are actual optional too that I bought. And all in all, I spent about $1,100 on the full roll cage build. But yeah, different ones. There's the 14 and the 12-point. And this is the part list. Everything came with, so that's if you bought everything. They just list everything on there. I'll first get in the instructions. Now they're all standard instructions. They're pretty much vague based on whatever roll cage you have. If you want to read them, just pause the video and read at your leisure. Like you always just go to their website and find the directions. Anyways, that is the instructions they sent. Now for instructions, they are kind of vague and some things are quite questionable where you put stuff, but we figured it all out in the end and did everything we possibly could best to the knowledge that we have. So hopefully everything's good. Which it should be. But yeah. That's that. That's the instruction guide and the product I bought. So I have the 10-point roll cage. I have the option of the swing out clevis, driver and passenger side, both passenger and driver side rockers, the dash bar, but I did not get the struts because those are the one that go up to your front struts and they connect through your firewall. So you have to drill holes firewall and put them to there. And it's the 4130, the chrome moly pipe. That's what I have, and so that's what I will be reviewing. And this isn't sponsored or anything, and this is all bought out of my own pocket. Alright, so we're going to talk about the pros and cons of doing the prefab roll cage. And so he'll have a few points he'll talk about, what he likes, what he didn't like about it, what welding it in, and whatever he complained about, which I'm sure about it, everything, because he had to do it.
Everything.
See, told you, everything. He's not very helpful with reviews.
Boo. This is where the vroom vroom shoes go.
The brum brum juice.
Vroom vroom juice.
Excellent. I'm glad you're reviewing a roll cage.
Oh, is that what we're doing?
Alright. So, what are some things you did not like about this roll cage? I've never done one before, never done anything else, but you do not like about it.
A few things were that it's kind of a general thing between this body style of car, so the Mustang and the Cougar are very similar, but different years and different makes and models kind of have just little variances between each other. So we had to do a lot of cutting and fitting on this to actually get it to fit for something that you buy that's supposed to be for a car. You think it'd just go in just a tiny bit easier. We had to notch out most of our tubes and cut to fit, which is kind of reasonable, but you know, it still sucks. Like if somebody doesn't have the tools to do all their notching and cutting themselves, then that's just a big problem. So as you can see here, these are the factory cuts that came with it. And
that's the factory notch.
I'm sorry, the factory notch.
Not cuts.
What? It's a cut.
No, it's a notch.
So there's actually quite a bit. It's not too bad to fill up, but I just didn't like the fit of how it was. So I ended up notching them all the way back on there. So it fit just to mount it all the way back better. The less gaps you have, the easier it is to TIG weld.
And since it being 4130 chromoly, it has to be TIG welded.
Yes. So material's nice. The bends were nice. But building your own would be something like this that's tore apart already. It would kind of be more advantageous to us to actually build and roll our own.
Bend.
I have the tool where I work where I could actually bend my own pipe to whatever we want. So maybe later on, or if I were to do it again, I would probably build it all myself. Just order the tube and do it myself.
Like I said, earlier before, it'd probably be a lot more. For my platform that I'm using, it would have been a lot better for me to actually just bend my own pipe than to actually buy a kit, because the kit is for a car that is pretty much already interior and everything is already done and put in. It's like a daily driving car you want to go racing with. You have to have a roll cage for safety purposes, so you'd buy one of the bolt-in or welded ones like the one I bought that you put in. So that is more application for that, where my car is
a ground
cut apart. No, floor has been replaced, firewall has been replaced, the dash and everything's out of it, all interiors and everything's gone out of it, and it's being purposely built into a race car than a already driving car that just needs to be safety equipped.
Precisely. Like if you already had your car and it's already driving, but you're at that point in the mark where you need to put safety equipment or roll cage in to go faster at the drag strip or on the track, then this is great. If you have a small TIG welder or something at home, then that's totally doable. You can do the notches with a drill press, a grinder if you had to. Don't recommend that, but you could do it. Or whatever equipment you have available.
Which is all stuff they actually state on their website too when you're buying it. Yes. That you could use. The best is the pipe notcher. The second would be the mill. Then the third would be using your grinder, which is not recommended, but it's possible. You could do it. Just everything's not going to be perfect. Like if you used a pipe notcher or the mill.
Yeah, a lot more time consuming also.
That too. So that's the major thing we really don't like about it. Other than that, it's great quality. It's great product. I would recommend you buying one if you are using
a pre-built car that has everything in it already. Then this is great. Everything fit like it was supposed to. It's kind of vague where stuff goes, but that's like the entire roll cage. All the literature on it is kind of vague how it goes.
Yeah, so I was talking about earlier with instructions, like things are being vague. They don't really just make it specifically for the car, and all the literature and everything is research, the laws about it, the rules and regulations for NHARA is all kind of vague because they got to cover every single car, and they don't have a certain
and there's no
pinpoint things for certain cars.
There's no set in stone place of where everything goes. So, which is good. It's kind of iffy when you're building your first one, but it's good because you don't have to get everything exactly perfect, and you have a little leniency on how you do it to make it more comfortable for you and better for your setup, because everybody's is going to be different.
That's one thing I really learned researching it before we did this one, is that every single roll cage I've seen someone do is different.
Yeah, but I mean, it turned out nice. Everything turned out good. A lot more cutting and notching than I would assume for a pre-bought one. But the main hoops and all the bends that they did they're nice bends, nice material provided.
Yeah, so there's some pros and cons of the cage that we bought.
And if you are going to build your own, if you have the capability, building your own from scratch is ideal if you have a specific type of car you're trying to build. But if you're just going for a generic, you just need a cage and something, and buying a pre-bought one is just fine.
Anyways, that's our kind of thoughts about it. That's our kind of pros and cons that we wanted to talk about. Now for the actual cage, I'm going to show you parts about it, show you everything in it, where everything went, what everything did, how we did it, and talk about that kind of stuff too. We'll start here in the back of the trunk. Now the literature and everything states that your back running bars that end up that are in the trunk to the top of the hoop, can't really see it through the window, we'll just show you once we get back in there. They can be curved any way, they can be bent any way, they could be any shape, anything. You write your name in the back of it as long as it ends somewhere in the back of the trunk. Don't quote me on that, that's what I read. Things change. But most of the part, so that's where we put it.
Yes, we ran it all the way back to these support plates back here in the subframe on the end there. So we figured that was a very strong point, and it should be good for whatever we need it for.
Yeah, and that allowed me room for my trunk. And the bars has crossed because it has spring open.
Yeah, so we can keep the factory trunk in there.
And I have my room for my fuel tank and trunk space and everything like that mostly still.
Big old tires.
Well, one maybe. If I wanted to close the trunk. So from there, we go to my back crossbars. Now for these ones, you could either do straight or you do cross. I prefer them across because they have a little bit more support. Now for the mounting place, the direction said it has to be
near the shock towers.
It was
the rear shock towers.
On the subframe in front of the rear shock towers. So a little hole right there, that's my rear shock towers. That spot right there, that's my subframe. So we figured that was the actual place that we put it there. So subframe in front of the shock towers, so that's where we put it. Hopefully it's correct.
Let's see what not.
And that goes from there to the top hoop. And across in the middle. So like this pipe we actually had to split.
This came in one piece. We had to cut this in half and then notch both sides and trim it back here to fit.
Now everything had to be trimmed to fit.
Which is one downside for that. But they do that because they don't know the lengths of the cars, so you make sure you have enough material to do what you need to do.
Now the reason they do that is because every car is not perfectly exact. So you have to have trim some so they make sure you have enough length to make sure everything could fit. But anyways, that goes to our main hoop. Down to our plates. And then there's our
hoops?
What?
Door hoops?
I'm not sure what
Door bars?
Now then there's the back bar and the little strut supports, I think is what they called them. And there, that'll just go down to my subframe right here.
down to the corner of the subframe.
So I bought the 10 point, so the extras are my rockers. So this bar here, my dash bar, and my clevis pins. So those are the extra parts of it. I did not get the door bar. That'd go right there where his hand is, up to the side bar, I guess is what I was going to call it. So that's the only piece I did not get on the 10 point. But everything else would be what you get. Because normally these bars are just welded in fully, and they're not detachable.
Yeah, which is kind of nice. You can get into.
Yeah, so they can swing out.
Yeah, swing out, or you can take them off if you're just driving around town or whatever you're doing.
Exactly why I got those. And the reason why they're on plates, because that's the standard for the regulations.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it'd be straight on the floor pan, and that's really thin.
Yeah, well, the plate helps to spread the load out across this entire area, so it spreads it all the way out into your entire floor pan instead of just pinpointing your 1 5/8 right on your, I don't know what this is, 18 gauge or something steel.
Yeah, that's some thin stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So instead of just trying to push the 1 5/8 through that, it's trying to push this entire 6x6 plate through that, which is extremely stronger.
And this is the part that we're talking about. It's a little calm. You can see where it ends there. That is right in front of the dash that would be.
Yeah.
That shouldn't have been there. See how it just kind of slightly falls? Like the roof and everything looks good. But then you got this angle there.
And this is just like that because it was supposed to be a dash. So for our application, it would have been nice to bend these hoops a little longer and actually hug where the window went and come straight down here so the door was completely uncovered. Because he plans on building his own dash for this thing at a later date. So it would have just been a little nicer if we could have done that.
Yeah. Exactly. That's just a major con thing about buying a prefab cage, is that I could have done that and I could have made it fit perfectly. You know, because this is made to have your dash in. Like I said, it's made to have your car that's already running and driving, and then just needed safety implications added in.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, as far as the buying just the back hoop in the cross, like this back section, probably shouldn't change between too many cars. That's good. The only thing that might change is these front side hoops or door hoops or whatever you want to call them, for whatever you're doing. Because if you're building a custom truck or a custom car that you're actually totally ripping out and rebuilding, that it might be better to do those yourself or find somebody that can do them themselves and have them bend them for you.
Yeah, so what came in the prefab, what came pre-bent is your main hoop, and then the sidebars. So those are the only thing that need to be bent in this. And that's the only thing that came bent. And everything else is just notching and straight bars. And then also, that comes, like I said when I was going over the instructions, they also came with the, doesn't come front strut bars, which would be from the front struts to the side bars here. And that goes through your firewall and everything. I did not get those.
Which we have the option to add later if we plan on going down.
Yeah.
For now, no.
So after everything I showed you, everything we talked about, the conclusion of the review would be if it's something that the cost of the review of the cost of it is pretty much worth its money. It's extremely good material, the 4130 chromoly.
Yeah, very strong, very light.
Yeah, it's a lot lighter than normal iron, and what normal pipe would be. And it looks a lot better too.
Yeah, I mean, for the price of the cage, it's actually a pretty good deal because we priced out buying the raw material and the time it would take to actually bend it. And for this application, this being his first race car and the first time I'm actually doing race car stuff, it's actually a pretty good deal. As far as difficulty goes, I'm going to give it like a semi-professional. You do have to notch, you have to measure, and you got to kind of know what you're doing. I mean, you can make it through, but having a tiny bit of fab experience and doing it is going to help a lot. And as far as the chromoly goes, you do have to TIG weld it. So a TIG welding skill or knowing how to do that is detrimental to it. The steel ones, you don't. That is an option. They are heavier and don't provide as much strength for the weight, but those can be regular MIG welded or stick welded if you hate yourself.
That would definitely be a pain. And another thing about putting a roll cage in is that, as you see, when we're welding it in, there's a lot of small gaps you have to get into, and trying to get TIG or little thing in there is quite difficult. So having more experience and being able to do it like he's able to do it.
Yeah, and I don't have the right TIG gun. Mine's just a generic one that I got with my welder. I'm running the Miller 215 multi-process, but a rotating head TIG gun with a short back cap would make a world of difference trying to get in there, because it was extremely hard to get some of those spots.
Yeah, so as for cost, it's great if you don't have tools to make your own. If you have the tools to make your own, you're better off just making your own.
Yeah, if you have the tools or the space to make your own and a place to work on. You know, we did it out here in the weather. That's why it took a little longer than it probably should normally.
Yeah, because we also have the wind you deal with and the few days that it did rain while we're doing it.
Yeah, so. But yeah, if you have the tools, it's worth it doing yourself from start to finish. That's a good learning process too. As the cat knocks down the camera.
Yeah, don't knock over the camera, Bella. Have to fire you.
Production crew sucks.
Yeah, the difficulty of putting it in is definitely, it's a little more difficult.
Yeah, I would, semi-professional is what I would give it.
But for the cost, it's really good. And then the time. The time it took us, I think it,
About 4 days, I think.
I think it was 6 days, and each day was about 4 hours, other than the last two, which was only about 2 hours each.
Yeah.
So, for you say it'd take about 12 to 14 hours, but that's also with travel time going to his work.
I don't have the tube
and notching.
And we had to go over.
Notching the tube there and everything like that. So time-wise, it's not really terrible, 12 hours, and we're only working on a weekend, so it took us about 4 weeks to do.
Yeah, which we could have done a little faster, but life happens. Yeah, the most time-consuming thing is getting it cut and fit right, which is the most important thing.
That's why it takes the longest.
That's why it takes so long. Making sure your cuts are nice, and then not cutting material too short is a big thing. That's where the knowledge comes in for what you're doing, because if you're just throwing pieces away and you're cutting them wrong size, that chromoly gets expensive real fast.
Yes, it does. That's why we bought a prefab.
Yeah. Yeah, but overall, I think it's a great buy. It went in fairly easy and it looks nice. Welded good material. Not too detrimental for the cost, and we had most of the tools already to install it, so.
Yeah. Anyways, the cost was about $1,100 for the chromoly, and you saw the pipes. I still have 3 extra tubes that I actually bought for extra support that I'm not putting in, I'm not using. So I have a little bit more extra cost there, so it's probably more around $1,000 for the full thing. But they have the cheaper version of it, which is around $500-600. And that would not be the chromoly, that would just be the normal steel pipe that they'd sell. But since I opted for the chromoly version, mine was more expensive. The base for this cage I have, which is the 10-point, I think was $800. And then the extra options that I bought out to about $1,000.
The door bars are nice, though. The claps that come with are very good quality. Very nice.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's our review on it, and if you're interested in getting one for your own car, I would suggest them. The Chris Alston Chassisworks is where I got it. They're located in Sacramento. So if you're California around, it's very nice to be able to go and pick it up instead of having shipping. Because that's one thing I should mention. The reason it's cheaper, otherwise it'd be more like $300-400 extra if you actually had it shipped.
Yeah, we went and picked it up.
We went and go picked it up, yeah, in Sacramento.
Yeah, shipping is another factor to keep in.
Yeah, because shipping on top of it would be another $300-400, which if I didn't have mine shipped, I will call it and picked it up.
And just do a tiny bit of research before. See what kind of
Not
times
a tiny bit, do a lot of research.
Oh, okay. A lot of research then.
Because this is something, if it's permanently going in your car, it's permanently staying in there. It's not something you're going to remove, you're going to take out anytime. And it's something that has to be done right. Because it is safety. And if you go to any drag strips, they take that extremely, what's the word I'm looking for? To the point, accurate. They're 100% safety,
Yeah, this will keep you from getting your slip to go race.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, I want to be able to go there and be able to race. So that's why I did all the research I did. And that's a real big reason why I bought a cage that's specifically built for the 64 to 68 Mustang and Cougar.
Yeah. But to see what kind of cage you need for what times you think you're going to run, and I'd probably get one for a time before that. If you think you're going to run 7s, I'd get one that's good for 6s, or if you're going to run 10s, I'd get one that's good for 9s, Having that little area of play.
Of comfort, I would say?
Yeah, comfort would be nice because
other than getting in and getting out.
The goal is to get your car faster and faster, not slower. So getting yourself a cage that's better for a time you plan on running is a good idea. And you're already doing the work anyway, so you might as well.
Like, I like to run 6s and 7s, but not right now with this car. Because it's...
Yeah.
Hopefully goes 13s. Especially since it's my first time going to be racing and stuff like that. In order for me to go past 8.50s, I'd have to put a funny car cage. For the funny car driver cage.
Yeah, which is just a hoop, which we can add after.
And that's another reason why I went with their cage, because they actually sell the funny car package that you just buy for an extra $900, I think it was, or maybe $800. I think it was 7 something, so probably around $800 or $900 after tax and everything. That is just weld straight into it. Probably minus modifications and stuff like it did the cage, cut to fit. That welds into it. And that's another reason why I went with this cage. But I can't think of anything else I'd like to talk to you about it, or...
I think that's pretty much it.
And that's all of our points, that's all of our pros, the cons, the price of it, the hours that we put in, and the difficulty of doing it. So if you like this review and you want to buy one yourself, go for it. Have at it.
Go for it. Go racing.
But thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. So like, subscribe, and got Fonzie over there. But thank you for watching, like, subscribe, and as always, if you didn't like it, send it to an enemy and make them suffer with you. Thank you very much, and enjoy.